He accepts that.
Right.
But does it rise to the level of damage, or do you just call it,
Well,
natural weathering of the shingle?
so then let me, just kind of ask a question on that. So if we're saying, that we're not disputing that hail likely caused that, what would we consider that black part, the underlying bitumen?
Yeah, definitely.
So then that would be hail impact with granule loss sufficient to expose the underlying bitumen, which meets the Hague definition of damage that we agreed to, 20 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago.
Sure.
So, so my honest opinion, if we can agree to disagree, if hail caused that impact and the granule loss is now sufficient to leave that exposed underlying bitumen, that meets Hague's definition of damage.
So to my eye, even looking at it, I'm struggling to see the impact. It just looks like the granules have been dislodged.
What would cause it to dislodge?
Hundreds of things.
Like, for instance?
We got snow and ice sliding off the roof. We got hail, hail knocks granules. We got
and I think if we look at
so if you ask me can you definitively rule out that it wasn't hail, I'd probably say I don't know. I haven't looked at any weather data,
Right.
But we know granules come off the roof for a number of reasons.
Right.
Age, thermal, animals, foot traffic.
Yep.
The list goes on and
do
on.
we
right?
do we think that that's animals or foot traffic or thermal? Or?
So I don't think it's animals. It could be some thermal. You could just have some weathering, snow and ice.
My thought process here is
going
to be, if we measure that, we're looking at almost exactly a half inch wide, right? So if the hail maps are showing an inch to 1.25 inches, we would expect to see an impact almost exactly that size.
Yeah, we're saying general rule of thumb is
a third to half depending on density.
Depending on direction.
And then if we look at your chalk over here, and I'm looking at the size of that. Smaller ones, yes, look pea size. The large ones are like exactly an inch, So, which jives, with I almost lost a piece of chalk. Jives with the storm reporting and the size of stuff we're seeing on the shingles. The size, we'll call it anomaly for now.
If you work with a lot of engineers?
Not very often, but sporadically.
Super tight-lipped.
Yeah.
Don't like to talk
100%.
I don't get it.
I think if everyone's
have an honest, open conversation about what we're seeing and what we think's going on.
And I agree with that. I think if everybody's acting ethically and honestly, there should be no reason not to discuss your thoughts and feelings and all that sort of good stuff.
I've always approached it. I'm going to make my call in the field.
That's how it should be.
Regardless of what the weather data says.
Right.
He's like, well, the weather data doesn't say anything. The weather data is not perfect.
Yep, and the weather data even says it's not to be used for that determination. But when it all does correlate,
it's nice when everything falls into place and you go, yes, no doubter. Usually if that's the case, you're not calling an engineering.
I would definitely say the vast majority of times they call an engineer, though, it's used to be a claim killer for sure.
Well,
I've definitely had them agree with me, but I would say 80% of the time, they're called out to write a overly wordy report that has nothing to do with the policy language that the adjuster can take out of context.
We don't read the policy.
Right. I know. I get that.
Like we're not there to make policy interpretation.
Yeah. But then, that's their thought process. The desk adjuster can take it out of context and take your one sentence that says not functional damage and say, oh, engineer says nothing out there.
See, I don't even like to use that term.
Yeah.
Because that to me is a policy definition.
Right.
I'll just tell you, I found a bunch of dents. I don't think they shorten the life of the metal.
Right.
They don't affect its function. It's not going to leak because it's dented.
Right.
You guys take it from there.
Yep.
For sure. Just want to make sure we're not seeing anything else on this side.
I mean, it's all going to look...
Something else is going on. I mean, it's representative of what we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to look like the couple we looked at over there. I mean, if we're trying to quantify that, you know, I'm good with that. If you want to use the jeweler's loop, that's cool. But if you disagree that's...
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm struggling right now to call it hail damage because I'm just not seeing the impact or the fracture to my eye. Now I might go back and blow the photo up and like, oh, okay, there it is. You know, that's why we take the high res photo, so I can blow it up. So I guess I don't want to be a dick, but I'm going to be kind of non-committal at this point till I have an opportunity to kind of
I get it.
feel. I'd say that what I will say is, if at the end of the day we're going to call these anomalies hail damage, I think there's enough of them on the roof to where we're just going to say repair's not practical.
Right, I agree with that.
If it's hail damage, the quantity is there to where, you know.
Yeah, so then I think,
front, back, you know, three sides of the roof, just replace the whole roof.
Right.
And you know.
And then so I think I agree with that. So I think then the only, you know, really probably impasse we're going to find ourselves in is, you know, granule loss sufficient to expose underlying bitumen is, you know, so we agreed to that in the beginning, but then since we've referenced everything else, we're saying, well, if the fracture's there, then
I think that's kind of what it's going to come down to.
If there's a fracture or not.
Can we clearly define whether there's actually some sort of bruise or fracture, right? Like usually the easy ones, you can just kind of touch it and you're like, oh yeah, soft.
100%. Agreed.
You know, that's also weather dependent. You go out and do it in July and it's like, yeah, the whole fucking roof.
Yeah, it's soft. Yeah, 100%.
Or you come out in December, oh, it's all hard.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So what's the sweet spot to figure all that stuff out?
100%. And the one thing I will say to that too is there is not much give anywhere on this roof.
No,
you know, normally that sweet spot does have that kind of void where it overlaps and where that tar strip is.
Where one shingle gets off the surface and up and over.
And this does not have that. This is all
it's pretty tight.
Very, very solid to the deck.
I'm just gonna check out this side.
Yeah, if you're gonna do anything stupid, let me know. I'll go grab a rope for you.
I'm just gonna...
Okay. I'll say if you're gonna try to get over there, I'll go grab a rope for you at least. So.
My test area on the right side.
Shocked to find anything
well
good on this side.
I think what's throwing me personally,
that looks like foot scuffs to me.
so like you've got that,
Yeah.
you've got similar characteristics that show kind of varying degrees of age and weathering that come with them, right? So, you know, they kind of start out small, they tend to get a little more bigger, probably because it's been exposed. And then you start to get into situations where the fiberglass, you're watching the progression over time.
That, I mean, is clear footfall. Yeah. You know, you can see that ridge at the bottom side of it. Yeah. So I don't think that looks anything like what we're seeing on the other sides. You know, and with this being the steep side, it would make sense that we would see more, you know, more footfall. You know, if I throw just for funsies, if I throw a loop on one of these. Like this doesn't have any cracking whatsoever. You can see where the granules used to sit in there.
Yeah.
But there is, you know, there's zero fracture of the mat. You want to look at it at all?
I'm sure that's the problem the desk adjuster has is,
right.
you know, looking at it
Well, like
from
here,
a little farther away, you're going, well, it kind of looks,
yeah.
you know, are we seeing a measurable difference? It's tough.
Well, and all the garbage contractors and PAs who point at everything and won't like be honest about what they're looking at makes things even harder, because then they assume that everyone's acting in that fashion.
Oh, PA, you're automatically dishonest. That's
I mean,
not true. Come on, guys. Let's not generalize.
Yeah. I mean, in Chicago, honestly, like in this market, I do see a lot of garbage.
You do a lot of, do you do any wood shakes?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Wood shakes are getting so much easier now, in my experience.
Yeah.
Because when I meet contractors and representatives for the insured, it's gotten to the point where like 9 times out of 10 we just show, we don't have damage to the shakes, we're just going to throw that right out.
Right.
It's dense on the soft metals.
Yep.
This policy doesn't have a soft metal exclusion.
Right.
We're going to use the standard Cedar Shake and Shingle Bureau technical bulletin that
Yep.
tells us here's how we replace the metals, and when we project that area out over the roof, we got to replace 70% of the roof.
Right.
We think it's not economical. Okay. Easy peasy.
Right.
Is it dented? Yes.
Yep.
Is it from hail? Probably.
Yep.
Probably 30 years worth of hail. Who knows?
Yep.
No. Can I say that none of those came from the storm date? Nope. There's probably at least some. So, suck it up, guys. Write better policies.
100%. And that's where I have zero issue with that. I see a lot of the stuff going ACV only and high deductibles. Great. Write your policies in a way that, you know, that spell that out. More importantly, make sure your agents are explaining the coverage people are buying to their policyholders. And then there's nothing to bitch about, nothing to complain about.
The
biggest issue I have right now is State Farm writing policies and then not paying for anything. You know, when Orland Park, some of the...
Doesn't make me feel good as a State Farm customer.
oh, really?
And I've had people in the industry tell me, yeah, you don't want to use State Farm.
I was a State Farm.
Find somebody else.
I was a State Farm customer from 2010 when I first got into the industry, so 2021. And 2021, they took the approach of so sue me.
That's not fun.
And now it's all across the country. Everybody in these, you know, in the restoration industry is all showing photos of the same stuff. Orland Park, you know, out there, like you could put your pinky through a shingle. Seriously? And they're saying, oh, no damage. It was only 2 slopes. It was very south and very west oriented. But yeah, I mean, you can put your finger through the valleys and even field shingles in some instances. Just nice, big, beautiful.
When was the storm out in Orland Park?
5/7 of last year.
Okay.
Palos Hills, Palos Heights.
I don't think I've had anything.
Really? Yeah, it was a phenomenal storm.
I may have. It's been a while. Like I started in the industry doing this stuff. Last few years I've kind of migrated over to the large complex loss stuff, big like structural failures, building collapses, bridge collapses, which is really awesome work, but thankfully that doesn't happen every day.
Right.
So like every once in a while I end up with holes in my schedule.
Right.
They're like, hey man, can you come help us? Like this one's not too close from your house. We're kind of backed up. Can you take 1 or 2 off our hands? And I say sure. I got some gaps and holes to fill.
Yep. Makes sense.
Keeps me busy and it keeps my mind sharp on what we're dealing with out
Yeah,
here.
100%.
Because when I typically do them, like, hey, we've got a 300 building complex in Colorado. I'm like, okay, it's a lot of buildings to look at.
Yeah, for sure. That'll keep you busy for a month or 2.
Well, what kills me is after, I think it was a chug file. Like after day 2, we got through like 20% of the buildings.
Right. Like you should pretty much.
And I called the guy. I'm like, all right, here's the deal. I'm finding hail damage like everywhere.
Yeah.
I've looked at 20 buildings,
I would say
5 on this side of the property, 5 on that side, 5, some facing north, some facing. I mean, it's like across the board.
Right.
I think you're looking at total damage across the entire property. I have enough, I feel, to make call. What do you want to do? He's like, no, look at every building.
Right.
I'm like,
yeah, they're billing you by the hour.
like, if that's
going.
what you want, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to tell you right now, I think this is a complete waste of time.
They're charging the carrier probably $300 an hour. You better look at every one of those.
It's not a waste of my time.
Yeah.
You're right. We bill by the hour.
Yeah.
But like, it is a waste of your money.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that particular one, I guess, talking to the adjuster, he had a similar file like that, clear and obvious, right? He went out and did the inspection, basically came back and recommended payment. You know, it was on the tune of like millions of dollars for something that big. And it didn't matter that he was right. His underwriters and his managers like tore into him and said, how could you approve this kind of payment for this dollar value without a building consultant, without an engineer to confirm? Like, almost like, it's not that we don't trust you, but this is a lot of money. You need to have your... And he said he just got his ass handed to him. And he's like, I'm never going through that again. Like, it's just not worth it for the dollars that we're talking about.
Have you seen the recent congressional hearings with Allstate and State Farms?
I've been trying to stay out of it.
Oh man, you should.
What are they talking about?
Just pretty much where the you know, on record, Allstate adjusters, State Farm adjusters coming out saying that, you know, these guys regularly ask me to modify my reports and change my estimates, and they go through like, oh, how many times has that benefited the policyholder? Oh, 0. How many times have they asked you to reduce your payments? Oh, I can't even keep count.
Can't keep track, right?
And just going through all of that. But yeah, so I mean, they've been in Congress getting grilled for, I think last week. So I want to watch the whole thing, but I've watched little 7 and 8 minute clips of it in the car. I did not. I mean, my personal...
They're not exactly acceptable.
No, I mean, my thought process is we should be seeing, just based on the direction and what we saw over there, the same stuff we're seeing everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing over there definitely suggests a...
Pretty straight down.
Fairly straight.
I mean, there was spatter. I don't know if you saw that over there, too. There was spatter that shows...
You can see it kind of... A little bit of it here on,
Yeah.
on the lip, but... And on the... They were just very particular. Make sure you look at the gutters.
Yeah.
Man. It's just difficult unless you're setting the ladder.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not worth risking my life over. So I used to 12, 14 years ago when I was young and dumb. I'm almost 40 now. My bones don't heal as quick as everything else.
I've been there. Young and dumb.
Yep. Yeah, I'd be hanging over the edge like, ugh.
Wiser and smarter.
Yep.
Change that up.
Yeah, not yet, but my girl's got baby fever now, so I'm sure I'm not too far out. I mean, they're so solid.
They're thick.
Yeah. And they're hard, too. You know, like, again, it's not an unsupported edge like we'd want to see in a ridge cap. Yeah, it's a GAF Timber Tech, so it's like a double.
Yeah, I mean, it's thick.
Yeah, and rock solid. I think it's bonded on the backside here, so it's like a double piece.
Which you can kind of.
And then it gets bonded on the backside. Yeah. Was there 3 pieces? Yeah. 3 layers.
It's got 3 right here on.
Yep.
On the overlay.
Yep.
Oh, actually, I'm guessing this bottom piece is bonded to the top of this ridge.
I mean, it might be.
It so thick.
Might be sealed. I mean, it's just like a upsell. Because it looks nicer, looks more robust. Oh, I mean, I do, but the average homeowner, no.
see anywhere where that shingle could have come from.
You know what? It's stuck to the roof too. I tried to pick it up, and there's so much dirt and debris underneath there. It almost looks like maybe someone tried to fix something around that chimney vent or something, and then cut it off and just threw it down there. Then it just stuck to the roof. Because it does look like it was cut with a razor. There's a little curve on it.
Yeah, the only thing I see is this torn corner here.
Yeah, and that one's way too big for us.
Little clean.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
I mean, you got some blister in here.
I will wholeheartedly agree with that. And that's, you know,
Little thermal distress.
Well, and those like this, there's no disputing that's a blister. That's a straight up and down, you know, very defined edge. You know, not like these where you've got that gradual slope.
Yeah, right.
That's
pretty clear.
Actually, a depression.
Oh, I feel the depression. Do you feel the depression, or do you just feel the fact that there's granules missing because your finger just kind of lumps right into it?
I didn't say feel a bruise. It definitely doesn't look like a blister.
Right, I think I got what I need.
All right.
Just kind of want to. So we're just going to kind of go back and put all the pieces together. See where the chips fall. I think like I said, we're kind of borderline. Like I said, I'm struggling to see the fracture but maybe it'll pop a little more clearly with big 27-inch monitor.
Right.
Oh, let me get something on this face here.
Looking crits or no? Okay.
Just want to see if there's if it were kind of straight down, I'd
yeah, I mean it's like
it's very steep
and
slope.
this is again why I do honestly believe what I'm pointing out is hail, because as you said, it is steep. But then on this side, like we've got these tiny little spots that aren't as deep, like that right there. That looks, again, I'm not saying I would not put my autograph on that thing by any means, but I'm just using that as like a, saying that
I'd be hard. That one I'd really.
I'm just saying that I think that jives with like it being a lot steeper, and therefore it doesn't have the same kinetic energy when it's hitting the shingle on this surface, you know. Just kind of glancing off and not impacting it more straight on.
It roll. Just easier to look at this slope here than.
Yep, I agree.
There. Kind of more of the same.
Yep.
I can.
Is that a repair? What the heck is that?
I was gonna say it looks
A really light colored shingle right there. Interesting.
on the back of my house. I'm kind of waiting for it to fall apart just a little bit more before I swap out the floors.
Yeah.
Get the nice composites so I don't have to keep staining.
Yep.
Doing the maintenance. I'd like to slip the railing posts over it. Get something a little nicer.
Yep.
But I can tell you, kind of like just reclad it, covered up the sides with the composite.
Oh, 100%.
Big fan of no windows.
Me too. That's why, yeah, people always want to go back with like cedar and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? Yes, it's less expensive, but if it was my house, I would use a premium vinyl for pretty much anything on the siding.
Even like, I mean, I get why people like wood shakes
it looks
or
beautiful
slate or something, but
slate for sure. I mean, slate.
it looks amazing, super expensive, and me personally, like, I don't know, I'd rather have asphalt shingle for a fraction of the price.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not asphalt, but I don't. Maybe a class 4 impact resistant or a Brava or a Da Vinci, like the imitation stuff. I mean, if I had the money, slate would definitely be the way I went.
Yeah, but even then, it's just a cost.
Yeah.
Right. Like, am I gonna get the value for that? It's like, oh, you put a 100-year roof on your building, great. You know, average length of home ownership is like
7 years. Yeah.
So, do you think you're gonna improve the value of your home and resell it for that much more? I guess when you're just asking, like, you know, $1.5 million too for a property, it's
Right.
gonna have to.
And
like,
sometimes if you got the money burning a hole in your pocket, you know, it's one of those things of keeping up with the Joneses. Someone puts on cedar and then all of a sudden someone else needs cedar.
Yeah. Like a lot of these planned developments, though, it's like written into the bylaws.
Yeah. They're going a lot more now. They're allowing them to do the Brava. Right.
Devalue.
Yeah.
Their
The
property.
look of the community, yeah. Which makes sense.
But, you know, if I want to go like a synthetic shape,
Right.
nobody will know.
Oh, well, a lot of times they're letting it happen now. Just because the maintenance and the upkeep. I mean, cedar was great 100 years ago when you could have spaced decking and it would dry out. But now that it has to go over plywood, it's like it gets wet and it stays wet and it's rotten, you know, 25 years, it's over.
Nobody takes the time to put down the like the mesh underlayment. They
Right.
fix it up so that it can breathe.
Right. Yeah, it's probably the expense, you know. So. All right, cool.
You're gonna pay double for it. Might as well take the money into
Yeah, 100%. All right, I'm gonna go up and grab a few more photos of my own if you're done. You all good?
all good.
Okay.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Oh, so I write the report.
What was it?
That
lawnmower.
So next steps, you know, I'll go back, kind of wrap up my analysis. I write the report, go to the insurance company.
Yep.
Typically takes about 10 business days.
Okay.
I would just recommend you stay in touch with the adjuster.
Yep.
Give it a couple weeks, follow up with them.
Yep.
Make sure you request a copy of the report.
Yeah, definitely.
And then ask them, all right, what's the plan? When are we going to get a decision made?
Yep, 100%.
Cool.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
be
you very
safe
much.
out there.